Welcome to the Deep Dive, your place to really cut through the noise and get properly informed about the innovations changing, well, everything around finance. Today, we're taking a good look at Cryptex. Now, this is a platform that's been making some serious waves, especially in how people think about creating wealth. So, for those of you already, familiar with decentralized finance, DeFi, Cryptex might ring a bell, but it has a really interesting twist. It started back in 2016, a blockchain platform with a very clear goal to change how individuals like you can generate passive income. And they do this through a pretty unique staking protocol, our mission today, to really unpack the key things you need to know about Cryptex's services and, honestly, the opportunities it seems to offer. And just to kick us off, here's something pretty impressive. Cryptex already has this huge global community, right? Over 800,000 account holders around the world. That kind of growth, well, it definitely says something.
It really does. It speaks volumes, and it kind of points to the strength of the model they've built. And maybe for listeners needing a quick reminder, staking, well, basically it's locking up your digital assets, your crypto, for a certain time. You do that to help support a blockchain network, keep it secure, keep it running, and in return, you earn rewards. Think of it a bit like earning interest in a bank, but in the crypto world. What's really insightful about Cryptex is how they've taken that core idea and built this really robust and innovative system around it. The whole aim is stability and potentially quite significant returns.
Okay, let's definitely unpack that system because you mentioned it's innovative. And I think what really makes Cryptex stand out is this four-part profit partnership model they talk about. That sounds like the core engine, doesn't it? Designed for crypto staking, for passive income. So yeah, how does this thing actually work? What are the parts?
Right. It's a very integrated design, quite strategic. So the first piece of the puzzle involves banks. And they're not just sitting on the sidelines. They're active partners here. They provide the essential liquidity, loans basically. These loans are what back the staking contracts within the Cryptex systems. Pretty big bridge between, traditional finance and DeFi. And for doing that, for providing that capital, they earn a set annual interest rate. It's 6.75% on those loans.
Okay, so banks provide the foundational cash, earning interest. Makes sense. What's next?
The second part, equally vital, is the insurance companies. Their job is crucial for, well, stability and just making people feel confident, right? They secure the capital that's tied up in these staking contracts. They work very carefully to mitigate potential losses, which in turn really reduces the risk for the banks providing the initial loans. It's this layer of traditional financial security, but inside a decentralized system. That's a key difference.
Insurance, adding our safety net. Okay, got it. Banks, insurance. What's the third part?
That brings us to the mechanism itself, the staking contract. This is like the intelligent core operating right inside the Cryptex system. Think of it as this carefully designed engine. It manages all the investments happening underneath. It calculates the daily profits from those investments very precisely. And then, and this is important, after it meets its obligations to the banks and the insurance companies, then it distributes those profits out to the individual account holders.
Right, so it pays its dues first, then pays out the users.
Okay.
And the final piece.
The final piece, and maybe the most relevant for everyone listening, are the individual participants. That's you. You're the users engaging with the platform, locking up your crypto assets for specific lengths of time that you choose. But here's another innovative bit. Cryptex also provides loans to the participants. And you can get larger loan amounts if you commit to longer contract durations. This whole mechanism, it's designed to potentially boost your returns, maybe by reinvesting or leveraging your initial stake.
Wow. Okay. That's really quite an elegant system when you lay it out like that. It's not just separate pieces. They all work together, don't they? Each part seems critical for making the whole thing potentially profitable. It feels like a really thought through approach. What's the sort of the big insight here? How have they actually managed to integrate these big traditional players, banks and insurance into DeFi? That seems tricky.
Well, that's the fascinating part, isn't it? The real insight is probably how Cryptex navigated let's say, the operational hurdles, maybe even some regulatory aspects between highly regulated banking and, well, the sometimes wild world of blockchain. This hybrid model is not just about having banks involved. It feels like it could be a potential blueprint for how institutional money could engage with DeFi yields more safely. By setting up these structured partnerships, Cryptex is aiming for a more stable environment, trying to reduce some of those big risks you sometimes see in purely decentralized stuff. Honestly, this could change things, open up crypto investment to more people.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful idea. Yeah, it's potential impact. So, okay, let's bring it back to the individual. If you're listening and thinking, maybe I want to dive in, what does it actually look like for you? What are the choices? What are the potential results?
Right. For individuals, Cryptex keeps it pretty straightforward. Clear options. You can choose how long you want to commit for. There are basically three options for the contract length: 3 years, 5 years, or you can go for 7 years. And something to note, regardless of which one you pick, 3, 5, or 7 years, there's just a flat $100 processing fee for each contract. That's it, up front. Simple.
$100 flat fee. Okay. And this is where it gets really interesting, right? The potential returns. Because based on these contracts, the potential upside, well, it seems designed to be pretty substantial. The numbers we've seen are quite eye-opening. Like for a 3-year contract shorter term, it might potentially yield around $35,000. That feels significant for just 3 years.
It is. And then as you extend that contract length, the potential for, compounding and just bigger returns gets even more pronounced. Take the 5-year contract, that could potentially lead to something like $471,000, which is, well, impressive. And then if you go for the longest one, the 7-year contract, which is really for people looking at longer term growth, the projections there suggest returns could be even larger, potentially up to $1.5 million.
Wow, hold on. $1.5 million from a 7-year contract in this model. That's the kind of number that really makes you sit up and pay attention. It shows how this whole structured system with all these parts working together is really aimed at, well, potentially serious long-term wealth building.
Exactly. And if you connect that back to the bigger picture, those numbers really highlight the kind of leverage, the compounding power that a well-designed staking model, especially one backed by these kinds of partnerships like Cryptex has, can potentially offer. The longer contracts just give more time for that compounding effect to really kick in, you see. And for the efficiencies in that 4-part model to deliver their full impact, it really speaks to the power of structured long-term participation in a well-engineered DeFi setup.
Okay, so the core staking is powerful. But there's more, isn't there? Cryptex also offers another way to boost your earnings, right? The referral program. So you can actually earn commissions like right away if you refer people who then sign up for contracts.
That's absolutely right. It adds another dimension. And it's not just, a one-off commission for the person you directly refer. The program actually has tiered benefits. That means you could potentially earn from multiple levels of referrals down the line within your network. So it kind of encourages you to strategically grow your involvement, leverage your connections, and potentially boost your overall returns that way too. It really shows how they're trying to build a community that helps the whole platform grow.
Makes sense, adding that network effect. Now, inevitably, whenever we talk about DeFi or crypto, the questions of transparency and security always come up. They're super important. So you might be wondering, how does Cryptex handle trust? How do you know what's going on, especially when there's often user anonymity involved?
That's a perfectly valid and, crucial question. Cryptex seems to tackle this by trying to balance that user anonymity with a real commitment to blockchain transparency. What that means is, while you as an individual might keep some privacy, all the actual transactions, the profit distributions, everything is verifiable independently on the blockchain. It runs on a public ledger, so there's a high degree of accountability. Anyone can scrutinize it, which is pretty fundamental for trust in this space.
Okay, so transparency through the blockchain itself. What about risk? Because all investments have risks.
Absolutely. And it's vital to remember that, yes, there are always market dynamics, inherent considerations with any investment. You have to be aware. However, a really significant point about the Cryptex model is how it proactively tries to mitigate some of those risks. And it does that by bringing in those traditional safeguards we talked about. The involvement of established banks, and crucially insurance companies, is specifically there to help secure the capital in the staking contracts. It aims to significantly reduce potential financial risks for the people participating. It's this hybrid approach, again, trying to create a more, let's say, secure and predictable environment within crypto, which can often be quite volatile.
So what feels really compelling then is how they set up this transparent blockchain system, but then quite uniquely combined it with these traditional financial safety nets. That combination, it positions Cryptex as, well, a potentially very robust and, yes, lucrative opportunity for wealth creation. It gives participants a clear view, hopefully, of how their assets are working inside this carefully built structure. All right, so to kind of wrap up our deep dive into Cryptex today, we've really unpacked its innovative 4-part profit partnership model. That's the thing that makes it different. We've looked at the clear, straightforward contract options you have 3, 5, or 7 years. We've touched on the really significant potential returns tied to those contracts, numbers that are quite attention-grabbing. And we also covered the added benefit of that referral program for boosting earnings further. All in all, it looks like a pretty compelling package designed specifically for building wealth today.
Yeah, and maybe just a final thought to leave you with. As you think about this model, consider how it might be a really significant step,
Yeah.
a step towards democratizing access to what used to be very complex financial tools. By kind of bridging that gap between traditional finance and DeFi, Cryptex could be making these advanced wealth creation strategies potentially more accessible and maybe even more robust than they've ever been before.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting evolution to watch in how finance is changing globally.
Absolutely. So if you're curious to explore this further, we encourage you to get back with the person that recommended this deep dive to you. Thank you so much for listening to our deep dive. Have an amazing day.